Yeah, so one of the things that's interesting to me about coming to these meetings is just how different organizations are. And so this question that Francoise is asking, I think, is a really good question. But it's a really hard question for my university because we generally don't do anything in such an organized way. And I don't know how many other organizations are similar as well. So in some ways, I almost feel like there's a model of kind of centralized organizations that have good decision-making processes and then make decisions and create policies that apply to the entire organization. And then in the other extreme, there's probably US universities that are horrible at this. Um, and so I like this question, but I don't have any idea how I could answer it and how it would even be possible.
Mm-hmm. Francois?
I have a comment on what you just said. For instance, I think you have powerful libraries in universities. And so these are places which provide support to the community in an organized way, normally, I guess. And so maybe you could ask to people who provide, or you can have a big computer service which provides resources and so on. And these places can be places, or you can have an institutional repository and so on. And so. So I am not sure you are lost forever away from this kind of questions.
Yeah, thank you. I will say that I think our university our library can provide services, and that's quite easy. And then people kind of choose to take advantage of those services or not. But the library doesn't really mandate anything, and so it's very hard for it to sign up to something like that. I mean, the one place where we do get kind of institutional decisions in some sense is where money is involved. And so the CIO can say everybody must use Microsoft products for their email, and then nobody has any choice. I don't think that's really going along the lines of RDA, so sorry.
No, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Excuse me.
Yeah. Oh, that's all right, Gabby. It's Keith. Dan, yeah. So I think in Australia, a lot of the university, well, just about all the universities have a data policy. But they didn't do that out of voluntarily or because they thought it was such a wonderful idea. They did that because the funders required it of them. So I think that's I think in the Australian landscape, the funders actually play a gentle role, but quite a strong role in encouraging all the universities to actually come along on the journey. And we only have basically two large funders, so it's a pretty straightforward landscape. So yes, it's very hard within an institution to get agreement and to get policies and to get those policies set up and agreed. But the funders have done a great job in driving that and requiring that of the universities, with the idea that if the university doesn't comply, they don't get funding for their grants, which is pretty important. So yeah.
Yeah, maybe I can just respond that I mean we have the same situation to some extent, except it doesn't work quite the same way. So the funders have leverage over the PIs, and so they can say that somebody that's being funded has to follow these policies, but it's harder for them to actually affect the university as opposed to the PIs that they fund, particularly maybe because we have a larger number of funders as well. The other, I guess, though, the thing I was going to say that going back to Francois' actual original question is at least for me, and again, maybe this is just for me and us kind of backwards US folks, but I kind of wonder if we think about adopting a recommendation or an output, if there's any other thing that we could think about as well about like incentivizing people to follow a recommendation or output as opposed to more formally adopting it or something like that. And I feel like that would be more successful for us, but I don't know if that's again, we may be in a somewhat unique situation.
And Francois?
Yes, my question about adopting policies, adopting RDA recommendation is not really about open science policies, but you know, there is a recommendation which is useful for for some part of your organization, and you know about it and you tell the story because it can inspire colleagues. So this was my idea. And it's because we have an example in Strasbourg that I thought it could be nice to share that and to get ideas from others.
Mhm. Yes, maybe I can tell you in our experience from Universidad Nacional, I guess is the opposite from what Daniel just told us, because for us, open science as a practice systemized with the systemization and regulations and all that is quite new. Then what happened with us is that we began the implementation of our strategy and policy and all that of open science and access to data and all that already in RDA. Then we had a lot of new ideas with what have the RDA already regulate and already suggest. And then the suggestion of RDAs has been an inspiration for us. And we took a lot of small things here and there from the even with that's why we ask La Referencia to begin the translation of all the RDA suggestions and all that because we need it at that time. I guess there's a lot of countries in Latin America that have the same case. I don't think we can say it's difficult for me to say, oh, that report or this tool is completely implemented in Universidad Nacional. I don't think we have something like that, but we have a lot of small suggestions and experiences that help us implement ours. Maybe we can systemize that in a way. I don't know, but it's something that have to be think of. I think we have to go and have a dialogue between us in what we took from all the recommendations that at the time we have. I even think that in a time Hillary told us that have to be a new way for RDA to publish the recommendations, for the recommendation to be more how you say that, how you can have a broader review in the data community, in all the academic community, about how all the recommendations can be implemented. Because maybe one recommendation is they have a lot of things that are already done in a university, but there are other things that can be improved. I don't know how you can be more focused on those needs or those highlights in the recommendation. But that's our experience. Beth?
I think I might have something of a similar experience, or like I connect with some of the things that you were saying there, Gabby, where RDA starts a lot of conversations within DRI. So an output will come out of this is something we're supposed to be talking about. One or two of us will review the output. Sometimes it goes to a staff meeting. It becomes an agenda item on a task force. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 years later before anything actually happens, and you've kind of forgotten that the RDA output is where you started, or it's the reason why you were doing something. And then maybe that output is slightly changed. There's been an update. And so you might point to something that's more of a conglomeration of RDA and other influences. And you can't necessarily point to it being a direct adoption. In about 2 days, I'm going to have a staff meeting, away day, where we're going to be talking about DRI's AI statement. And I forwarded the agentic AI, the director outline, as something that we should be talking about, which will generate conversations around, should we actually be building our own agent? What do we think it can do? Is it going to work exclusively for research data, or is it going to be, because of DRI's remit, more broadened to cultural heritage and have other influences? And it's entirely possible that by the time we build an agent, hopefully we won't have forgotten entirely where this, kind of a key influence came from. But we don't have a systematic way of reporting when we do something that, RDA is often where the idea came from in the first place, and where the community exists that could give us feedback on how we're doing.
Yes, I think that happened a lot with RDA. But well, I think it's a nice discussion that we can take another time too. I like the discussion. I think we can do something, and there's an idea there from Francois. But then we have to continue to the end of the meeting, because we are almost over the time. Then we have some.
Gabby, Raphael has his hand raised.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Excuse me, Raphael. Yeah, yes.
No worries. Thanks. Just a quick question to see whether a recent development that has actually affected us may also affect others, and that has to do with the fact that some of our public-facing sites, CCAN instances for different communities, our GitLab, for instance, has seen increasing amount of traffic from bots, most likely AI bots. I call them misbehaving, in the sense that they actually bombard us with requests that reach almost the level of distributed denial of service attacks. And it actually took us quite some effort, and we learned a lot about web application firewalls, rate limiting, geo-blocking, and all these under certain constraints, in order to keep the balance between suppressing this, I would call it malicious requests, but at the same time keeping our sites open to legitimate use. And legitimate use may also include harvesting, of course. I guess many of these bots are sent out to collect data to train models. And of course, we want to see our results, or the work from the people that we support through these applications enter into this. But at the same time, it has reached a situation where we had to become protective to some extent. And at this point, I would only like to ask you if this is a topic that we consider in scope even for this group, and whether others are seeing similar developments, and whether there is a need maybe to organize some information flow or whatnot.
Françoise, go ahead.
Yes, it's a critical issue for many, I think.
Yes.
And maybe not for the university, but for the Strasbourg Astronomical Data Center, for instance, for all the places which distribute information. So I have a feeling it would be worth exchanging good practices, or as good as possible practices in an RDIG. It's too bad it's too late for both proposal for the next plenary. And in any case, not everybody will be at the next plenary because you have to be in there. But I really think it's a good topic for an RDA webinar or people to push the subject so that there is an exchange of good practices.
Yes.
And hints and what to do and so on. But this means as usual, we need to have people to take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think it's a good idea. We had a lot of problems on that. This is the same way, our repository and our servers with all those bots. We even have to shut down the servers for a couple of days because of that.
Mm-hmm. So I take from this quick round of feedback already that we are not alone and that there is a certain interest to engage at least in the in some conversations about best practices and how to approach the situation. And I may get back to you on this.
Yes, maybe we can add a question like that for the next meeting, our next meeting, and that would be great to have a conversation on that.
Yeah.
Daniel?
Yeah, I was just going to say I was at a library conference last summer. I can't remember which one, sorry. And this was one of the special sessions was about this. So it's, I mean, I think this is a huge issue and it seems like it's much bigger than RDA and I'm not even sure that RDA is the center of it. So I don't know how a discussion would go forward, but sorry, I don't know how a productive discussion would go forward because I don't have a good sense about who else would need to be involved beyond the RDA community, but I'm pretty confident there are people beyond it.
I think I am afraid the RDA community is in the storm, in the center of the storm with many others. And so to exchange about the experience we have of what is going on is something which is in the RDA landscape, I would say. The kind of thing the RDA can do usefully if there are enough people interested.
That's it, yes. I think at least to share, and if anybody have any practice that have solved at least a little bit or mitigate the problem.